It's all about humanity. About humanity. It's all about humanity. About humanity. It's all about humanity. It's all about humanity. About humanity. It's all about humanity. About humanity. It's all about humanity.
Hello, model citizens. Welcome to Junction. Tonight on Trains and Tech, we are going to talk about my last op session and the mistakes that I made. At least we'll talk about that a little bit. We'll get into it more in a second. We're also going to talk about my next op session coming up on the 27th, which is next Sunday. And I've got a couple other things to talk about as well. I am not feeling 100%. My brain is a little bit foggy. My body is fighting me a little bit today. So we'll see if this show ends quickly. It's because I had to go take care of business. But until then, we'll have some fun. We'll talk about all of my life's mistakes, or at least my mistakes last Friday night. And we'll keep going from there. First thing I do want to share that I am very excited about, and I know some others on here are excited about as well, but as somebody that loves operations, I am a supporter and member of the OPSIG. The OPSIG stands for the Operations Special Interest Group. They are associated with the NMRA, but you do not have to be an NMRA member to join. They've started their very own achievement program. It's based, obviously, around operations. They've got 12 different categories so far. If you get 8 of the 12 categories, you become, oh, that's new, you become an operations ninja. Things are still changing a little bit. Looks like Ed is up to 6 already. I have applied for 3 of them so far, which I have gotten. I applied for Boomer. Boomer is a railroader that's, traveled around to different op sessions. So I got that one. I got the Yardmaster one using my layout and a couple of other layouts. I earned the host one, obviously. Actually, I didn't earn the Yardmaster one yet. I earned the Traffic Manager one. I'm still trying to figure out whether I quite qualify for Yardmaster or not. It's probably more in my head than in other people's heads. But yeah, so you can go through, you can click on it, it'll take you to a page, it'll explain what it is, and then if you just scroll down, there's the application for credit. You fill this out online. There's no printing anything out. There's no mailing anything. There's no like judging and getting signatures and all that stuff. Just fill it out, submit the application right online, and then Paul Weiss, who is managing this at this point, will eventually get back to you. One of the ones I'm waiting for is this one, which is the conductor and engineer one. The conductor and engineer one is still being developed. They're looking to have it ready in September, but you're going to have to answer a questionnaire that's not quite ready yet. So I'm kind of curious whether I know enough to actually, get this one. I think I do, but you never know. I mean, they talk about TT&TO, DTC, track warrants, CTC, and I'm familiar with some of those, not really all of those. So if this is something that you're interested in, I'm going to drop the link down in the chat. But for anybody that's an operator, I would recommend checking it out. And just because I have absolutely no idea what it is, I'm going to click on this OpSig Railroader badge. The railroad badge is conveyed upon OpSig members that have had 5 years of full-time service on a for-profit railroad in one of the following positions. There you go. So that's for, I guess, our real railroaders out there that do this for a living, get paid to do this, and are being recognized by the OpSig as well. Don Iris, who is the co-host of Around the Layouts operations discussions, says that he probably won't be able to get any of them because he doesn't know anything about operations. And while I would probably agree with him, I'll keep my comments to myself. This one is still under discussion as well. They're looking to partner up with the LDSIG, which is the Layout Design Special Interest Group, and they're looking to partner with them for one of the badges. Basically just trying to, gather more people, get more interest, get people to, talking and discussing things and all that good stuff. So again, link in the chat, check it out. It's $10 a year to join the OpSig. You do have to be an OpSig member to do this, but $10 a year, a lot of really, really great resources. I think it's something to check out and consider. Other thing to check out and consider, and he just dropped in the chat, so if you have any questions, now would be a good time to ask them. But Sparky 107107 has been bringing together YouTube model railroaders for the last 5 years, 6 years, something like that. Now it's been many years. He's been doing a meet and greet once a year. This year's meet and greet he's doing in his home country of Canada. So you will have to travel north, but 9 years. I didn't realize it was 9 years. Wow, there you go. He's been doing this for 9 years. August 22nd to 24th, presented by Sparky 107. Reach out to him. Sparky, I don't know if you want to drop an email or something to contact you in the chat, or if there's a website people should reach out to you. But he's got a bunch of stuff scheduled. Ontario Southland Railway trip, going to Otter Valley Railroad, visiting Sparky's layout himself, Waterloo Central Railroad, visiting Little Canada, going to visit Mini Prince, a bunch of other stuff. So check it out if you are able to get there. I have been to the meet and greets. They are always a good time. Sparky always puts a lot of effort and time into them. So those are two things to check out. Now I guess we got to talk about what did I do wrong, because I feel like I did things very wrong. There are actually two people in the chat right now that attended the last session, so they might tell you that I didn't do anything wrong. But I guess that's one of those things that's kind of interesting about being a host, is that, you know, you do your best. And I wouldn't say that I didn't do anything like intentionally wrong. I didn't do anything like bad. It's more just in thinking about the session, I'm thinking about what I could have done better. So the number one thing that I think I didn't do, I just saw this. This is too funny. Don Iris, who is a layout host himself, says that the host is never wrong, which I could take that approach. I could blame it all on the operators. But one of the early things that I was told from a host about model railroad operations, and I think it was a very valuable comment. And the comment was basically, if your operators are doing something like wrong, or they didn't understand the instructions, that it's very likely that it's not their fault, it's that you didn't explain it very well, or something of that nature. Basically, look at what, you know, you as a host can do better. Don't blame your operators for you know, having issues or doing things wrong. So I'm kind of taking that approach and analyzing things that happened Friday and thinking about what I could do better. I think the big thing that I could have done better is really understood the level of operators that I had at the session. Sparky, if you came here, you would be more than welcome to sleep in the train room, and you could run trains all night if you wanted to. You might have to sleep down here with the dog, but you know, no, I'm just kidding. So what I mean by that is I made some assumptions and I didn't check in on how the operators were doing until we were a good way into the op session. And what I mean by that is there was somebody that came to the session who I knew had been to other op sessions. I hadn't been to another op session with them, but I'd been to an ops event with them. But I made the assumption they knew car cards and waybills better than they knew car cards and waybills. They're very experienced with switch lists. They might be experienced with other things as well, but they have their own layout. They use switch lists on their own layout. They are a host themselves. So my thought was, well, they must know car cards and waybills. And that was a mistake. I found out very late in the session that they were pretty new to car cards. And I didn't take the time to kind of delve into that and understand where they were at. And I feel like they seem to have a pretty good time, but I feel like they could have had a better time if I had taken some more time to really understand where they were at. You can sleep on the floor in my train room when I don't have my desk in here. When I have my desk in here, there is no room, or very, very, very little. And as I'm even explaining what I think I was doing wrong, apparently I didn't even really understand what I was doing wrong. So it wasn't so much the use of car cards and waybills, it was the use of car spots. My layout, as I think some of you know, because I've sort of shown these things and I've talked about them, but I have car spots, right? So each section has a certain amount of cars that will fit on the track. But while it says like there are 8 cars on Croton-on-Hudson, right? It's not just 8 cars anywhere on the track. You need to put the car that needs to go to spot 1 at spot 1, the car that needs to go to spot 2 at spot 2, and so on and so forth. And that adds a little bit of extra complication. You can't just kind of throw the cars anywhere. You need to put them in very specific spots. This is not erasable, but it is a piece of paper, and I do have the ability to print more. So I could, it's funny you say that. I did think of making some cards and laminating them, kind of like how these are laminated, and then getting something called China markers. A China marker is a kind of a grease pencil, greasy type of thing that you use to write on the bottom of like China plates and stuff like that. And you could use it to, you know, write on something like that, and then it would just wipe off. Matt, I wish I was going to the RPM. I gotta go to one of those at some point. The first one I'll probably go to is the Northeast one, just because that's the close one to me. But the St. Louis one is by far the big one. That is for sure. I'm not talking about dry erase. I don't know. I guess dry erase might work as well. But I'm talking about grease pencil, I guess, is the more generic name for them. So that was, I guess, the one big mistake. Don says, that's what it's all about. I do the same thing. Certain cars have to be in certain spots. Yeah. So my layout is based on all LTL traffic, which is less than, LCL traffic, less than carload traffic. LTL is less than truckload, which is what I deal with at work all the time. So that's why that came out. LCL is less than carload, which means that a boxcar has, the contents of the boxcar is for multiple people. So those boxcars will all go to different terminals and different spots where they'll be unloaded to then get them to their correct end customer. So they need to go to the correct spot. But yeah. So what am I trying to say? So that was mistake number 1, I guess, was assuming that Paul knew everything. And Paul, also known as Lance, apparently had a chink in his armor, and I found the hole and I stabbed him right through the heart. Paul made it through the session, though. I think he had a good time. I think he learned some stuff. And yeah, I think that's good. Sparky, I'm very happy with the layout, except for really one spot. And I've been doing a lot of thinking about how to change that area to fix that one spot. And that one spot is the double slip out of the north yard. The main issue with that double slip is really just that some locomotives and some cars, even after I've gone through them, I spent about an hour trying to figure out why the New York Central locomotive always wants to veer to the left over the double slip. And I can't figure out why. It's like there's some like little spring in the in the truck that's like pulling it just a little bit to the left, and it always gets hung up on that switch. So that's the one spot that if I could really figure out how to move things around on the layout, and it would take a lot of work. I mean, I've thought about how to do it. The way to do it is to reduce the length of the Selkirk tracks and pull that switch back, and that would give me more room to put that switch in a different spot, which would then allow me to get to Selkirk and not need that double slip. I guess I could. No, I don't know. There's a couple things I could do. It's like loading the car float, balanced by car weight. That can be fun and challenging for an operator. Yeah, my car float is tippable, but N scale cars just don't have enough weight. No, it doesn't happen to all locomotives. It only happens to that locomotive. It only happens on one end of that locomotive. So if I flip the locomotive around, it doesn't happen. It then happens going in the other direction. One of my thoughts is that maybe the way the truck is sitting in the locomotive, like Adam's saying, that maybe like the pickup, the way it's bent or something, it's like pulling it to one side. The initial solution is I just don't use those locomotives in the yard. I give those locomotives to Paul. I send them down to the IRT powerhouse, and he uses them down there where there's another double slip, where they have absolutely no issue going through that double slip. So, I don't know. If you put a weight on the car card, they could use that to load evenly. Oh, that's true. Oh, that's interesting. That's an interesting idea. Yeah, so Paul got hung up down at the IRT powerhouse, which kind of leads me to the next part of the conversation. My layout is all about switching. And there's a friend of mine who's been very supportive of, yeah, they did. They had an issue with the other switch, which I'm going to clean before the next session, which hopefully they're going to fix. So I have another friend who's been very supportive of the layout. He's been operating on the layout since its origin. And he was new to operations before. He had done some operations, but he's basically very new to operations. So a lot of the complicated switching and how to read the car cards and stuff like that are things that he's used here. And then he's been going to other layouts and, learning and growing. But, he's still an intermediate operator. And what I did at the last session is I upped the count of operators. So I went from 3 operators to 4 operators. And what ended up happening was my analogy, the analogy I'm using, is that he kept looking at the trees and he didn't see the forest. And what I mean by that is I've got a list of priorities. The number one priority is that you've basically got to get the cars out of the yard that aren't cars that should be in your yard. That is step one. Any car that you're not going to send out to an industry, just get rid of it. Put it on the AD track. We'll get a train to come in. We'll get it out of the way. And what was happening is he would see a car and say, oh, that one's going here. Let me just take a second and deal with that car. And then he'd go back to, pulling out priority 1 cars. And then he'd see another car and he'd kind of he got sucked into, I think, a common trap of, oh, this will only take a second. I'll just take care of this really quick. But then all those little seconds started piling up. And unlike Don Iris, when Don was here, where I just kept throwing stuff at him, What ended up happening was he got buried pretty close to the beginning, and I didn't realize how buried he was. So I didn't jump in to help him out right away. And once he got a little bit buried, he just kept getting further and further buried, and didn't really know how to get himself out. So I feel like I failed him as a mentor, I guess you can say, and didn't help him get out of that situation. I did invite him over the next day. We did spend 3 hours the next day finishing the op session, which I thought was really good to kind of, come back and get on the horse. But I do think my layout, and I guess this is a question now. So Dennis has been here a couple times. Don has been here. Paul has been here. I tried to make my layout accessible to everybody, but I fear that because it's a very, very heavy switching layout, that it can be very overwhelming. And I didn't catch how overwhelming it could be. I tried something new and it didn't work. So Bob, to answer your question, do your ops instructions include handy hints? Kind of. They do if you ask for them. If you don't ask for them, I've been trying to provide more just high-level information. So, for example, on this one pager, which I've kind of reduced everything down to one page at this point, trying to make it easier, whatnot, is I have this priority list. And basically, if everybody follows the priority list, then everything will kind of work, right? The problem becomes is if you forget about the priority list and just start focusing on the car cards, you can get yourself a little bit stuck. And I think that's what kind of happened is, if you, sorry, I'm looking for my AC controls because it is freezing cold in here. I think that's what happens if you kind of forget the priorities. You can kind of lose track of some stuff. Don says he was doing fine until I sent in the interchange trains. Don was doing too well. So I kept sending trains in to basically slow him down so that the other operators could catch up to him. The other problem was I'm still tweaking the nighttime, my lighting. My lighting changes from day to night and back to day. And right now it's in night for too long, and I'm trying to adjust it. I want it to be, a nice, gentle sort of change. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at. Let's look at some of these other comments. What would have helped immensely that's just occurring to me? Color-coded I-beam pieces just so I don't have to go back and forth between the cars and the car cards. So what he's asking for basically is, and I don't have them here, they're in the other one. I think they're in the other one. So I do actually have those. I have little, color-coded I-beams to put on top of the cars. So here's my trick with that. Just to, what do I do is I have rails on the layout where you can stick the car cards. So my solution to keeping the cars in order and knowing where the cars go is I'm always keeping the car cards in order. I guess the other thing is that my brain's a little messed up, I guess you can say, and like I can kind of like remember certain things, like I can remember a certain amount of moves. Sometimes I completely forget, but I would keep going back, to the car cards, and it works for me. Come on, I'm trying to find these. I do have, if people don't know what they're talking about, is I do have all these I-beams. So what they're talking about would be so I used to have the car numbers on all of them. So what I could do is take these car numbers off and paint these, the colors for the different areas of the layout. And I've thought about that. That is definitely something I've thought about. I don't know. I mean, I guess here's the question. Paul, you're a prototypical modeler. Do you want people putting things on top of your cars that aren't prototypical? I don't know. I know a lot of people do it, but N-Scale Train Boy says, I mean, I guess I can see that. I would maybe suggest asking people about their prior experience in industrial switching or yard switching and suggest one or other job type for them. Yeah. And normally, I guess I should say, normally I do that, but I don't know, for some reason, I don't know, I guess I just made the assumption that, I made an assumption about Paul that I shouldn't have made about Paul. I love my car tabs, yep. Car tabs generally would have helped a ton, I think. Maybe I'll do that. What do other people think? Should I make car tabs up? I would need to buy some more paint to paint those up, but I could pretty easily make car tabs. I think for people who have done a fair bit of yard work and or industrial switching, it's challenging but not intimidating, and that's ultimately the goal. I was at Phil Monat's layout on last Sunday, and I was working Wilkes-Barre, and we basically buried the we got buried at one point, like just completely buried. And it was like just a matter of just like staying with it, knowing that you could kind of like get out of it and just working through it. I'd say maybe have them available for use, but don't require people to use them. And yeah, I think that's, I agree. I agree as well. Are your op sessions on like 8-hour shifts? My op sessions kind of are a 24-hour shift only because of the lighting. I only use the fast clock for the lighting changes. I don't use the fast clock to indicate time of day. So I'm simulating a 24-hour period just because I want to rotate things. Paul says, my yard masters use them all the time. And I guess this is, again, maybe like it's a regional thing. People around here don't really use them. There's one layout that kind of uses them, but in general, in the prototype, you would do something called, I think it's called like chalking the car. And basically what that means is that you would have like some colored chalk and you would the conductor would mark the side of the cars so he knew which cars he would pull. So what car tabs are is that you would have different colored tabs. So let's say you had, let's say like this one was red, and let's say this one was green. What you could do would be to put them on tops of the cars like this. And then let's say this one was, blue, right? So now I have these, quote, car tabs on top of the cars of different colors. And this car, let's say, would go to Riverside, and this car would go to Manhattanville, and this car would go to the IRT powerhouse. And by taking this car tab and putting it on the car, it allows you to duplicate the information that's on the car card and waybill to sort through things. I guess it's so there are some ops schemes that only use car tabs. So they would have, you know, like an I-beam like this, and one side would be red and the other side would be yellow, and it would be, let's say, red side up, and then when you would, you know, flip over the layout, you would switch your little tab from red to yellow, and now that car would go to another location. So there are ops schemes that use car tabs for that type of thing. Ed does bring his own, that is true. He brings what he thinks he needs as well. I do have, you know, my layout's pretty color-coded, right? Like, you know, you've got the blue, the yellow, the purple, the green, the orange, the red, and the black. So I would need these colors. I could make the car tabs, you know, like I know there are 24 cars that go to the powerhouse. So I would make 24 black ones. I know that there are 9 cars that go to 72nd Street. So I can make 9 of them. Like I don't need to make like a ton of them. I would just need to make the amount, you know, that I need for each session. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm kind of curious. Don, do you use them? Ed, you know, Ed does bring everything as well. Yeah, they're basically, they allow the conductor to mark the cars in a way that I guess you can just, you know, mark the cars. Yeah, so Don doesn't use them as well. It's reminding Adam to try and set up some sort of switching list for the junior engineer program at RMTS. Paul says, ultimately, as you mentioned to me, I think a second time through as I would have been good to go. Yeah, I kept saying that as well. I think my layout, unfortunately, for people that only get to come operate it once, I think the second time, like your eyes kind of open up, and it's a completely different experience the second time around, because you kind of know where things are. But again, I guess that's, you know, that's part of being a railroad boomer, right? Is you travel around and you learn. Railroad operations is like building any muscle or learning any new skill. The more and more and more you do it, and the more you do it on various different layouts, the more you build those muscles, and the more you're able to kind of go anywhere and bring those skills with you. N-Scale Trainboy says, I personally don't like to use them. I've used them last year at Ops to You Drop, but I think on your layout, I really wouldn't use them. I just wouldn't need to. I don't know if that would actually help or not. Dennis says, I find the tabs more useful for a big yard with 7 or 8 destinations, trains to build. Yeah, I guess that's kind of true. So the biggest yard that I personally work is a yard with 9 yard tracks, a runner track, and 3 AD tracks. And it's car card and waybills, and we don't use anything to mark the cars. All we do is we keep the car cards and waybills in order. We mark each track. Right? So like we will say, okay, you know, track 1 is going to X destination, and we mark that track with that destination, And then when we're sorting cars, we know to put those cars on that destination. You can then change that destination to a different track as well. And I have never felt the need to use tab on car, but I don't know. Don says, I love going to other layouts. I always go home with new ideas. New ideas are a good thing and a bad thing, because you go home with new ideas. You end up building tablets for your yard and then try and teach new people to be a yard master on your layout when you've been the only yard master on your layout since. But you get this idea, you build a tablet, now it opens up, all kinds of rabbit holes. But yeah, it is good. It is good to learn other things. Paul says, we're lucky to have really great layouts here locally, but I'd consider them to be on the easy or medium game modes. Yours is a hard mode layout, and that's not a bad thing. But anytime I've ever tried hard mode on a game, it takes me more than a couple times to get it. Yeah, very true. I do have ways to run my layout on an easier mode. For example, if we had 3 operators instead of 4, it slows things down. The other thing that we could have done, and it's something that if I knew that Paul didn't have as much experience spotting cars, what I would have suggested to him is get all of the cars on the track that they need to go on. Then after you have all the cars on the track that you need them to go on, then if there is time, go back and put them in the correct order. And that kind of allows you a little bit like that easy intermediate mode to just get the cars generally where they're going. And then you basically would pull all the cars out off that track, order them, and then shove them back onto the track. And then you're only, it narrows things down. I think the difference between easy, intermediate, and hard, I think, are the number of things you're doing at once. So Paul was trying to sort which cars went on which track and put them in order at the same time, which can be a little bit complicated. Enzico Trainboy says, I work a 5-track, 2 AD tracks yard semi regularly with 4 locals and 2 through trains that stop by throughout the session. I'm fine working with just the car cards for that personally. Yeah. And again, I think it's just getting used to it. Yeah, see, Paul says that would have been useful. So Sparky likes speed. I don't have any loops here, so I don't really have a way to just sort of run a train that just kind of runs around. And I think that's one big downside of this. I think that's one big downside of this as well, is that I can't just have somebody come over that just kind of wants to run a train. Yeah. Oh yeah, we did forget. So Paul, at the last minute, I found out that it was Paul's birthday. And by the time I found out it was Paul's birthday, I was already at work. I didn't have time to run out to get anything for Paul. And Paul, I did want to show this off. I completely forgot. It's just, can I blame not feeling 100%? So Paul, on Paul's birthday, came over and operated on my layout, and Paul brought me a birthday present for Paul's birthday. This is a car that Paul did up. You can see he, covered over the original, what's it called? The original livery, put his livery on it. Is that your livery? I can't see. It says Wyoming on it. But anyway, he made this for me. Oh yeah, that is, I guess that's a, oh, is that what it is? It's a Delaware and Hudson car. So that's the Delaware and Hudson logo. So Paul made this up for me in N scale. Unfortunately, if you do look, so I mostly run 40-foot cars on the layout, and this is a 60-foot car. So this is mostly gonna live on, live as kind of like an extra car as well. So I want to get more cars from other people's layouts. I think it's really fun to have cars from other people's layouts. I got cars from Grandpa Rails' layout, got cars from John Tanzilla's layout, got cars from other people, and it's fun to run them. I've got cars from N-Scale Train Boy. That's Genesee, Wyoming Transportation logo. I did not know that you have a freelance Genesee, Wyoming Transportation layout. When did Paul Lance Stamp switch to freelance? Yeah, it looks like a prototypical design change. Yeah, prototypically, I guess they did use, Sharpie to cover it up and to rebadge it. Everyone did leave with animal crackers. I never got a CMRM one because CMRM only made HO scale. They didn't make any N scale ones for this last release, and they didn't have any old ones from they did do an N scale run, but just years ago, and I just never got into it. Paul Lance Stamp of Finger Lakes Railroad says, "There's a story. There's always a story. Got to get some new 40-foot boxcars with the new and improved B&CCS boxcar design. I would take them off your hands gladly. That is always looking to add something new to the layout. Friday's session was the first time we had 3 operators using proto throttles, which I thought was fun and exciting, but of course that took people a little bit to get used to. One operator was using the TCS throttle, which added a little bit of confusion because I do have momentum, so they needed to use the brake feature. And using the brake feature on a standard throttle is a little bit of a challenge. John says, you have some circus cars for my layout. Those are a little big for my N scale layout, though. Those are up on the G scale track as well. Heath, since you started operations, what is the best story to tell? I'm not sure I understand your question. Are you asking me what was my biggest mistake that I ever made? Are you asking what is a fun and lighthearted story that I like to tell? Are you asking me, I don't know, what do you want to narrow that down a little bit? Paul got cajoled into trying freelance for his Fremo modules, mostly because the home shop's Farland Terminal boxcar, but also from a lot of poking from me, John Farrington, and Late Night Model Railroad. Yeah, there are a bunch of people on my Discord that are all building their own freelance railroads, and there's a lot of talk about freelancing. I love freelancing. I think it's a lot of fun. You're taking ideas from the prototype and you are applying them to your own story, and I just think it's a lot of fun. Sparky says, what is your best memory, good or bad, felt bad, or felly best? So I tell this story a lot. I think I've probably told this story on this channel. If you read a lot of publications about model railroading and or have just been kind of in the hobby for a while, you've probably heard the name Tony Custer. He's kind of a legend in the hobby, and he's got one of those layouts that if you come to this area, it's like it's the layout to go see. If you can get invited to an op session on his layout, it's it's a big opportunity. I got on his list. I went to 2 op sessions, and now I'm no longer on his list. So I don't know if this had anything to do with it, but I kind of tell this story. So the very first op session you go to at somebody else's layout, they generally pair you up with somebody else, and they kind of help show you the layout. You know, you learn the rules of the road and you kind of get things going. So I get assigned to work with somebody else, and it's a train that's already out on the road, and the car cards are, you know, sitting next to the train waiting for us. So being the good and diligent operator that I am, the first thing that I'm going to do, and it's something that generally any operator that gets a road train should do, is you get your stack of car cards and you check to make sure that you have the cars on your train that it says you have on your stack of car cards. So imagine you get, you know, a stack like this of a whole bunch of car cards, and you're going to go through and check to make sure all the cars are there. I was a fairly new operator at the time, but, you know, I knew just enough to get myself in trouble. So I go and I pick up the car cards, and I'm really excited, and I've got my throttle, and, you know, I'm like ready to go and everything. And the first thing that I do as I start to go through the car cards is I drop the entire stack of car cards all over the floor. So now I've got a bunch of car cards all over the floor, no longer in order. First thing that I do at Tony Custer's layout. Luckily, the person that I was with was very nice. We picked up the car cards. I picked them up very, very quickly, hoping that not too many people saw me drop the car cards all over the floor. And now I've got a stack of car cards that no longer match the train, and I'm trying to put the car cards in order. And that was my first experience operating on a timetable and train order layout, and it was my first time at Tony Custer's layout. So I guess that's kind of it's both a good memory and a bad memory. But I do think it's a good story. It's kind of a fun story. It's kind of one of those stories, like, you know, things go wrong. You kind of just pick yourself up and move on. Stuff happens. You know, I I've knocked structures off of a layout onto the floor. That was a fun one. I did that on a layout. I have dumped live loads. What a live load means is that you have like a gondola, and okay, so here's an example. So this is a gondola, and this gondola has a load in it, but this is the load. It's just a little plastic cover. Some people will have live loads. So instead of a little plastic piece, they'll actually find sand, and they'll put actual sand in their gondolas. What that means is that as you, if you should derail the car and knock the car off the track, it means you've now dumped a whole bunch of sand or whatever is in the car all over the track. So I've done that. At first, I completely panicked. I was like, oh my God, I dropped all this all over. And then I kind of stepped back and took a look, and I noticed that I was not the first person to dump a car in that exact location and dump the live load all over, because there was already, this was HO scale coal. It was already dumped all over that area. So I was not the first person that did it, but I did do it. Luckily, Tony did not see me do that. I think I got it picked up, pretty quickly. Dennis says, I've nearly sent a train off a swing out door section of a layout. If I didn't get my hand in front of it, multiple $100 BLI steam locomotives would have taken a dive. That's a story. That's another story that I was told. I mentioned asking some more experienced hosts and operators the question, and one of the things they told me, and I was talking about this earlier, is if an operator makes a mistake, it's because you didn't explain things very well. One of the other stories they told was of somebody that went to a layout and actually accidentally drove a brass steam locomotive right off the end of the track, and the comment was that that's on the layout owner. If you've set up your track where it is possible to drive a brass steam locomotive off the end of a track, that's the host's fault. Yes, it'd be good if your operators, paid attention and didn't do something like that, but it happens. And when it happens, it sucks, but that's you kind of learn. You learn what you need to do. What was I about to say? There was something else I was thinking of related to that I completely forgot. But anyway, I'm kind of fading. It seems like everybody else is fading as well. I need to get things set up and ready and put together in here for next Sunday's op session. Yes, I would much rather drop car cards and not a loco. And Don, as a host, agrees. It's absolutely the host's fault. I have here, I'll show you this real quick. I have on my layout some plexiglass pieces. You can see this one right here. I just pulled it off. I have these on here because when I designed this layout, I happened to put tracks a little too close to the edge. And if a car falls over and falls off the layout, that's my fault. So I put up little plexi pieces. So that's, that's the way it goes. So take accountability in life, in general, in life. Take accountability, whether you think you did it wrong or not, whether you think it's your fault or not. Take accountability for it, solve the problem, figure it out, work with your team to come to solutions, and all you can do is communicate, and everything will hopefully work out in the end. From the city that never sleeps, farewell, model citizens.
It's all about humanity.